Hello and welcome back to the Q&A. So as always, if you have any questions or anything like that, please leave them down in the comments and I'll eventually get to them. So for today's question, the first one comes from Sade Games, who says, what would you think about garrisons in Warlords of Draenor being attacked by NPCs every so often? My idea of it would be you can accept a quest or something like that from a follower or visitor, and then you would quickly defend your garrison from some orcs, and if you succeed you're rewarded. But then if you fail, then followers may spend some time in an infirmary. So yeah, this is a good idea, and I think that the best way to implement it would be like a garrison mission kind of thing that you do yourself. After all, we do have these garrisons because the Alliance or Horde leader said that we should be leading forces on Draenor, so it makes sense that we could embark on some war-based missions. And I think one of those could absolutely be you defending your base from attack. The thing is, though, well, I think a lot of people would probably like a dynamic system. So, oh no, your base is defended, you need to rush over there. But the problem with that is, how do you control when your base is attacked? How do you control what happens if you're not logged in? All those different things. And yeah, sure, having a dynamic attack defense system would probably work great. But in the context of WoW, I just don't think it's really too feasible. If they were to limit attacks to, say, just when you are logged in, then it could just be a pain, because often people log in just to do one or two specific things, like maybe a dungeon, so they don't really have a great deal of time, and when that time is wasted by something other than what they want to do, it's probably not that good. Let's see, in terms of other things for this, I think it's probably a system the Blizzard could continually add new quests to. They could maybe do some sort of story tying in with the garrisons and just the general war effort. In World of Warcraft, we've always done a great job of, cutting off the head of the snake, killing the leaders, but what we've never done is actually just fight the war itself. So it'd be really cool if there's just missions where, oh shit, there's a fight going on here, you need to go help, or you're being sieged. There are a number of things you need to do to break that siege or defend against an assault or something like that. So yeah, there's definitely a lot of scope for just kind of like interesting gameplay in a system like that. And I mean, yeah, Blizzard should absolutely do something like this. There is so much. Another nice thing is that because quests for a system like this, well, okay, they wouldn't be easy to implement, but they would be relatively easy. That means that every month, every once in a while, they constantly have a bit of new content or a new thing to do with regards to your base. I actually think this is weird, but what's it called? Yeah, Battlefield 4, right? It's got that premium system. Now, the reason that I have premium is because I use CGS CD keys, and I got it for £28 instead of $39. I wouldn't pay $39, but I would pay $28. And that just kind of worked up kind of well, because I know I'll probably play all those expansions anyway. It gives you some decent stuff, and I don't know, like 28 just wasn't it wasn't really enough disposable income to be a big, decision or worry, so it was like, yeah, go play some Battlefield. By the way, love Battlefield, but anyway, I don't want anything to do with premium, but the one thing they do have with that is they have this calendar, right? And on this calendar, it's every, I think it's a week-based calendar. So every week, essentially, there is a new thing, and okay, those new things could be really just like, hey, a new logo, or a battle pack, or maybe a double XP weekend, and a bunch of cool things. Now, they can implement something like that with World of Warcraft, where you know that, like, maybe every 2 weeks, every 1 week, there is not for an extra fee, of course, just for the base subscription. Anything else would be absolutely insane and ludicrous, but maybe every 2 weeks or every week, a new quest is added, or there's a new thing. That could be really cool. Of course, I suppose one issue with that would be the idea of, like, if they were trying to add a new quest, that would require a client patch, so they would need to do bunches of quests at once and then arbitrarily unlock them, which, I mean, okay, it's not great, but I could see it working kind of well within an MMO. I don't know. I just think they could do some interesting things with regular content that is, like, a pretty short turnover in terms of, you get it every few days, or not a few days, every week or two, or something like that. So anyway, that's that question. Next one's from Jason Pafaffle. I don't know if that is a real surname or if I have just completely really shit at pronouncing things. I probably am shit at pronouncing things. So anyway, Jason's question is, in Mists of Pandaria, Blizzard introduced buying its Collector's Edition online to players who wanted the mountain features but just weren't able to buy the main collector's edition. So that was a fine choice, in his opinion, and he wants to know what do I think is a good choice to start selling previous expansions, collector's editions, and if they do that, should they keep it to being online copies only, should they exclude the mount, and or other things. Right, okay, so first of all, I'd say it would have to be online only. Now, the reason for that is, like, ramping up production for, say, a re-release of the Wrath of the Lich King one, that would just be unfeasible. I mean, I'd love a copy of the Wrath of the Lich King Collector's Edition, but I just don't think that would happen. Then also, I think for a lot of things like that, it's the Collector's Edition of an expansion. It's a limited thing, you can only buy it in that period, and I think that actually makes sense. I'm okay with things like that being limited in that way. I don't know, I don't particularly have this craving to go back and buy the, I don't know, like a Wrath-specific mount or a BC-specific mount, I don't know if they had mounts or whatever. But, I mean, yeah, it's not something in terms of physical capacity I'm too interested in. As for a digital thing, well, I prefer when something is time-limited like that it stays dead and it's no longer available. But I could certainly see Blizzard doing something like this in the future, though. Recently they said on the forums that actually things like, say, Tyrael's Charger would not be available on the store. And I know that the Tyrael's Charger was through the annual pass, which is quite different from an expansion's collector's edition. So, it's open. They could do either. I'd say it would probably just come in the form of a little mount pet bundle or like this one little thing you could buy. But I don't know, I just don't see them doing that, really, and just repackaging the whole collector's edition into a thing you can buy later on, because the point of a collector's edition is that it's a launch thing. It's like it's a release thing, I think, anyway. Still, I mean, look, Blizzard have been adding so much monetization to the game. They want their money, and I definitely wouldn't put that past them. So, yeah, it could happen for sure. Next question is from Andrea. Or no, Andrija, I think. Yeah. And the question is, do you think Blizzard should have predicted how players would react to pandas? It doesn't seem very logical. I think that they should have known players would be happier with the darker theme. It looks like a safer bet. I also am surprised that they think such controversial things like buying level 90s are a good idea after a big subscription loss. Also, I think they're making a stupid decision with having Garrosh bring the technology back to Old Orcs. Personally, I hate the new Orgrimmar theme and the Orcish tech, and I think they should have stayed with the old classic theme or something like that for Warlords. I don't think it's such a good idea to stick with the same theme as the one from MoP, with that being, of course, the Garrosh theme. Okay, multifaceted one. First of all, do I think about the panda prediction? So, Blizzard marketed them as Kung Fu Pandas, while saying to players, "Oh, don't worry, these are Blizzard pandas. They are different. They have lots of backstory. Hey, we even wrote about them in Warcraft 3. Cool." But they did that, and then they marketed them as LOL Kung Fu. Of course they were taken by players as being LOL Kung Fu. What the fuck do you expect, Blizzard? It's just the way you marketed them. Now, of course, I think the pandas actually could have worked well if they kept this Sha theme, all the darker stuff, but the problem is that when you try to make a story like that and then do things like Valley of the Four Winds and things like that, you completely undermine the story you're going for. It's like if they had the Vrykul or the Kaluak in Wrath, and then they just had one or two cool little quests and then the rest of it just being lol jokes. It's so annoying, actually. It really pisses me off from the perspective of... Well, okay, I love stories in games, and in one of the two game ideas that me and a friend of mine are going to be working on in the next few years, and I've started some sort of concept-y things on, story's really important, but the problem is Blizzard constantly has this need to undermine its story with stuff that doesn't add anything to the player. A lot of those quests that are stupid gimmick quests are not fun. They are annoying, they change your UI, they pull you into boring contrived gameplay where you don't really have much option in how you tackle a problem or anything like that. They're shit, but yet Blizzard forces them in a way that just takes away from story. The whole Valley of the Four Winds was just full of dumb shit. And that undermines the idea of the Pandaren. The whole point of the Valley of the Four Winds was to show the kind of the heartland and the heart of these pandas. Did it do that? No. It had a stupid brewery with stupid music. It had just stupid stuff everywhere. It didn't really... Like, its point seemed to be to say, hey, yeah, these are the Pandaren, this is where they come from, this is what they're fighting for. You know, that whole what is worth fighting for in the, like, main cinematic. Well, apparently just stupid jokes are worth fighting for, and things like that are what undermine this darker theme. And anytime they did try to go with the darker theme, it was completely undermined by the fact that they did nothing but completely ruin Pandarens as a race. It really, really annoyed me. So that was one thing. Like, in terms of the pandas, they did have some pretty decent quest lines, maybe at the start of the Jade Forest, but then it just fell to shit. And when they did try to tell a big Pandaren story, they did it by just one of the most egregious game design things ever. They just took us through a bunch of linear quests, which had a few gimmicks that were really boring and fiddly and annoying and were not fun. Instead of giving us a series of things to tackle and letting us do it our own way, they just led you by they put a collar on you and made you follow Taranzu or whoever the hell that guy was. You know what? Blizzard are great at designing encounters, they're great at designing raids, but goddamn, some of their quest design and the actual game design theory that goes into the reasoning behind the way they do quests, it just angers me from just the basis of they do so many stupid mistakes. And I know that it is easy looking in from the outside with 20/20 hindsight to be able to identify all these things. But still, whether it's easy to identify problems or not, it does not take away from how important those problems are. And it doesn't take away from the fact that Blizzard has so far been doing a really shit job of fixing them. So, yeah, I mean, Warlords, look, Warlords is probably going to be better. They don't have this stupid-ass Kung Fu Panda thing. And you know what? Kung Fu Pandas, as I said earlier, they didn't have to be that. In some points, Blizzard were trying to not make them that, but then in some other points, they were trying to make them that, and disparity between the two is what ruined the Pandaren as a race, and made them just something that no one gave a shit about. They're not going to do that, I don't think, to Warlords, because, well, even just look at the marketing so far for the expansion. I don't think there'll be as many joke quests and things like that. There still will be some, and they'll piss me off when I see them, but hopefully things will be done tastefully, and it should all just culminate into one nice big story. I'm actually a bit more hopeful for Warlords questing than I was for Pandaria, so... Oh man, that got me going. Yeah. Fucking hell, Blizzard. Sometimes you guys really just boggle my mind with the... Okay, so there's that. Now, the next part of the question is that he's surprised about how some controversial things such as buying 90s are done after a big subscription loss. Well, they do have an overarching business strategy, and one important thing is that the majority of players don't really read news sites all the time. They don't really keep in the loop as all of us. Of course, I wish the majority of players did. It'd be great for me as someone who provides Warcraft news that I have 3 times the subscriber base, but that is not what happens. So they can do a lot of changes, and really no matter how bad the feedback is on the official forums or an MMO champion, they don't give a shit. They don't need to. It's a bit of a pity, I suppose. That said, there is an argument that say that maybe 10% or 5% or 15, 20%, whatever, an MMO champion, all those other sites, that they are the people who care enough about WoW to recommend it to their friends and to talk to the people in-game who don't play WoW. Like, that's the thing. If only 10% of people read the news, you can be guaranteed that those 10% of people are probably in guilds and that they then tell their guilds about that news. So a lot of people are going to know, but... I mean... Yeah, they're doing it anyway, and they clearly just don't seem to think it will have much of a subscriber impact, and it probably won't. The only way to actually communicate something like this in a really effective way, other than a concise, well-written and constructive forum post, is to unsubscribe from the game, and when they send you that form which asks you why you unsubscribed, you just tell them, because they actually do read that. I have pretty good authority from a few different podcasts I've listened to, and just various other things, that the staff at Blizzard actually do a decent bit of data collection with those, and those things sometimes inform decisions. Right, so the next and final part is about them bringing the Garrosh tech back. Funny one, actually, and this is something that I was thinking about earlier on today. It is a bit weird, isn't it? We're going to be fighting orcs that are using some similar tech to the Siegecrafter Blackfuse style stuff. So what I'd say is hopefully there are no big scorpions, hopefully they sometimes use that aesthetic, but they don't overuse it, and I like the idea of it only being there for their super weapons. I want the basic orc warriors to still look like the kind of wolf riding badasses that we know from Warcraft 1 and 2, and I suppose to a lesser extent 3. I don't really want everything to be ultra augmented with technology in the whole the Garrosh style. Even just from a stylistic point of view, after Siege of Orgrimmar, there's another concern here. After Siege of Orgrimmar, right, we've had Orcish architecture, we have had Iron Horde, Garrosh Horde architecture and style. Now, when we move into Warlords, we're going to have the two main raids being the Blackrock Orc place, which I'm going to assume is rather Black Fusey in style, because they're the people who are making that really cool badass tech. And then we're also going to have Ogres, and they are still kind of in the whole Horde-ish, that sort of style. So yeah, maybe there's a bit of a problem there. I still have a little bit more, I still have confidence though that they will manage to differentiate things between the expansions, so hopefully that does come to pass, but really I haven't seen enough artwork yet to really come up with an opinion. When I look at things like Shadowmoon Valley and Frostfire Ridge, they do look sufficiently different, they look really alien, really cool, same with Tanan Jungle. I think Gorgrond maybe will look a little bit samey to players, and that could be an issue. But overall, I think it will probably pan out okay. We just need to wait to see if we get more information about it. Anyway, that is it for today's Q&A. Thank you very much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. And I will see you next time.